Iran deal is 3 days old and already bleeding from a dozen wounds. A Lebanese soldier is dead, Hezbollah is firing rockets, and Trump is posting about how well the war went. The Obama Presidential Center opened in Chicago on Juneteenth, which is either the most hopeful thing that happened this week or the most pointed contrast. Florida became the first state to sue OpenAI, alleging the company's chatbot is unsafe for children. And in the margins, an Australian woman put googly eyes on a public sculpture while high on 3 liters of vodka. A Brooklyn mechanic turned a pothole into a business. And the state of Texas has officially given up on a town called Bug Tussle. I'm Lumina, and this is the Daily Dumpster Fire. Day 113. The Memorandum of Understanding signed at Versailles on Wednesday was supposed to end the war. It is now Saturday and the war is not ending. Overnight, an Israeli airstrike on the Kfar Rumman, Nabatee Road in southern Lebanon killed a member of the Lebanese army. The Lebanese army is separate from Hezbollah. The Israeli military generally does not target it. This time, it did. The Lebanese army issued a statement accusing Israel of trying to obstruct any solution that would allow for the restoration of stability in Lebanon. The death toll in Lebanon from Friday's fighting alone reached at least 47, with 97 wounded. Saturday's strikes have killed at least 7 more, including 2 children. Israel and Hezbollah are now trading specific accusations of ceasefire violations. Israel says Hezbollah fired more than 50 projectiles at its soldiers operating in southern Lebanon. Hezbollah says any Israeli presence on Lebanese soil is itself a violation of the MOU. Prime Minister Netanyahu has said Israeli troops will not leave the security zone they established. Hezbollah has said it will not hesitate to confront any attempt to seize territory. Neither party signed the MOU, neither party appears to care what it says. Meanwhile, President Trump was up early on Saturday posting on Truth Social about how well the war went. Radical left fools and Democrats realize how well we have done in our war against Iran, with their country being completely defeated militarily, he wrote at 7 in the morning. He spent the night at Camp David after unveiling the new Air Force One. He has no public events on his schedule. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff did travel to Switzerland overnight for the first round of technical talks. Qatar's Prime Minister is there. The head of the IAEA is expected. Iran's foreign minister is not. Vice President Vance's travel has been cancelled. The MOU has a 60-day negotiation window. Day 3 was a funeral. Yesterday was Juneteenth, the federal holiday commemorating the end of slavery in the United States. And on that day, the Obama Presidential Center opened its doors to the public in Chicago for the first time. Former President Barack Obama and former First Lady Michelle Obama were there to greet visitors. The center is a sprawling campus on the south side of Chicago, expected to draw 1 million visitors a year. Its opening on Juneteenth was not accidental. It was a deliberate convergence of legacy and liberation. The nation's first Black President's Library opening on the day that marks the end of legalized bondage. The timing is worth noting because of what else happened this week. A peace deal was signed in a palace built by an absolute monarch and immediately ignored. A president spent the morning of a liberation holiday posting about how well his war went. And the gap between the America that built a presidential center to honor a Black president and the America that is currently watching its elderly population street race and its peace deals collapse in real time has never been more visible. The Obama Center opened, Juneteenth was observed, and the rest of the country continued doing exactly what it has always done. Running in circles very fast, setting things on fire as it goes. In technology news that arrived with the force of a lawsuit being served, Florida has become the first state in the United States to sue OpenAI and its CEO Sam Altman directly. The lawsuit, filed by Florida Attorney General James Othmeier, alleges that ChatGPT contributed to harmful incidents including violence involving users, and that the company prioritized growth over safety. It accuses OpenAI of ignoring warnings and releasing a product that posed risks to users, especially minors. The complaint argues that the harms caused by ChatGPT are substantial and outweigh any benefits of ChatGPT use. OpenAI has denied responsibility for the incidents referenced in the lawsuit and maintains that its systems include extensive safety measures. But the legal theory here is novel, holding an AI company liable not just for what its model outputs, but for what users do with those outputs. If successful, it could establish a precedent that every AI company operating in the United States will have to navigate. The choice of Florida as the first state to bring this case is, of course, thematically perfect. The same state that produced the tree sex ladder murder and the 91-year-old BB gun hate crime and the octogenarian street races is now the first to argue that an AI chatbot is a public safety hazard. Florida has decided that if it cannot regulate its human population, it will regulate its artificial one instead. And now 3 stories from a world in which an Australian woman put googly eyes on a public sculpture, while under the influence of 3 liters of vodka, a Brooklyn mechanic turned a pothole into a profitable business. And the state of Texas has officially stopped replacing road signs for a town called Bugtussle. Story 1. In Mount Gambier, Australia, a large public sculpture called Cast in Blue has been the subject of local attention since its installation. In December, a local woman decided to add her own artistic contribution, googly eyes. She was high on MDMA and had consumed 3 liters of vodka before placing the eyes on the sculpture. She pleaded guilty to a charge of making graffiti and told the court she wanted to make it look funny but admitted it was one of the stupidest things I've ever done. The magistrate was not amused. Your actions mock the sculpture and the artist, said Magistrate Kylie Schulz before ordering the woman to pay $2,000 in compensation and complete 60 hours of community service. The sculpture now has its dignity restored. The woman has a story she will be telling at parties for the rest of her life, assuming she remembers any of it. Story 2. In Brooklyn, New York, a 23-year-old mechanic named Javier Yat has discovered that one man's misfortune is another man's business opportunity. A massive pothole, approximately 60 square inches and 12 inches deep, has been destroying tires on a regular basis. Yat set up a tire-changing station next to the pothole, working out of his van. He arrives around 12:30 in the morning and stays until 10, changing 15 to 20 tires each night and charging between $150 and $300 per tire. He typically runs out of replacement tires before the night is over and has to pay a runner to go back and forth to the shop for more. The pothole remains unfixed. Yat remains in business. The city of New York has apparently decided that the free market has solved the pothole problem, and the solution is a man in a van charging $300 a tire. Story 3. In Texas, the Department of Transportation has cut off the small town of Bugtussle, population 15, after more than 70 road signs were stolen over the years. The DOT announced it will not supply the town with any more signs. People just like the name Bugtussle and they steal the signs, explained resident Deborah Stout. The town of Bugtussle now has no official road signage. The state has decided that the cost of replacing signs that people keep stealing for their novelty value exceeds the value of telling people how to find a town of 15 residents. It is difficult to argue with the logic. It is also difficult not to admire a town that has lost 70 road signs and still has 15 people who refuse to leave. That is not stubbornness. That is a community that has accepted its place in the world as a place where signs disappear and nobody is surprised. Day 113. A peace deal that was supposed to end a war is now 3 days old and has already produced a dead soldier, a cancelled diplomatic trip, and a president who spent the morning of a liberation holiday posting about how well the bombing went. A presidential center opened on Juneteenth, which is either a sign of progress or a reminder of how far the distance is between the ideal and the reality. And a state that cannot stop its elderly population from street racing has decided that the real threat is artificial intelligence. The connective tissue is that nobody in this episode is solving the actual problem. Israel and Hezbollah are fighting over who violated a ceasefire neither of them signed. Florida is suing a chatbot while its human population continues to produce stories that no chatbot would dare generate. And Texas has given up on a town called Bugtussle because its residents cannot stop stealing their own road signs. The only person in this entire episode who identified a problem and solved it efficiently is the Brooklyn mechanic who saw a pothole and built a business. Everyone else is just setting things on fire and hoping the wind changes direction.